The escape pod's emergency lights cast eerie red shadows across the cramped interior as Marcus Chen checked the navigation systems for the 5th time in an hour. The readings hadn't changed. Their ship, the diplomatic vessel Harmony's Edge, was nothing more than scattered debris floating in the void of space, and their small rescue craft was badly damaged. "The hyperdrive is completely fried," he announced to his 4 companions, trying to keep his voice steady, despite the gravity of their situation. "We're stuck in this system until someone finds us or we figure out another way home." Zara, the tall Valonian diplomat with silver skin that seemed to shimmer in the dim light, crossed her forearms in frustration. Her species was known throughout the galaxy for their logical approach to problems, but even she looked concerned. The nearest inhabited system is 3 light-years away. Without faster-than-light travel, we would need several lifetimes to reach it using conventional propulsion. Beside her, Kira fidgeted nervously, her blue-scaled hands wringing together. The young Aquarian engineer had been working frantically on the ship's systems since their emergency landing on this barren asteroid. Her gills fluttered anxiously as she spoke. "I've tried everything I know, but Aquarian technology relies on bio-neural interfaces. The ship's organic components were destroyed in the explosion." The 3rd alien woman, Nyx, remained silent in the corner. The shadow-walking Umbranian assassin rarely spoke unless absolutely necessary, but Marcus could sense her calculating gaze, studying every inch of their prison. Her dark, almost translucent skin allowed her to blend with shadows, and her red eyes glowed softly in the darkness. She was probably already planning 12 different escape scenarios, though none would work without a functional ship. Finally, there was Lyra, the golden-haired Celestian healer, whose empathic abilities made her invaluable in diplomatic missions. She could sense the emotions of others and project calming influences, but right now even her usually serene expression showed cracks of worry. "The emotional distress in here is overwhelming," she said softly, her melodic voice carrying a slight tremor. "We need to find hope, or despair will consume us all." Marcus stood up, his human frame smaller than Zara's imposing height but stockier than Kira's delicate build. He looked at each of the women who had become his allies and friends during their diplomatic mission to the Outer Rim territories. They had been returning from a successful peace negotiation when pirates attacked their convoy. Now they were stranded, and their alien technologies seemed useless in their current predicament. "I know this looks impossible," Marcus began, moving to the small viewport that showed the rocky surface of the asteroid they had crashed on. "Your species have incredible abilities that mine lacks. Zara, your people can calculate hyperspace trajectories in their heads. Kira, Aquarians can interface directly with living ships. Nyx, Umbranians can phase through solid matter. And Lyra, Celestians can heal wounds that would kill any other being." He turned back to face them, and something in his expression made them all pay closer attention. There was a spark in his brown eyes that hadn't been there before. "But humans have something different. We're stubborn. We refuse to accept that something is impossible, even when logic says it is. We look at broken things and find ways to make them work. We take scraps and build miracles." Kira's head tilted to one side, her curiosity overriding her fear. "What are you suggesting, Marcus?" "I'm suggesting we stop trying to fix what's broken and start building something new." He moved to the supply lockers and began pulling out seemingly random items. Emergency rations, medical supplies, spare clothing, and maintenance tools. Every human child learns about inventors who changed the world with nothing but determination and spare parts. The Wright brothers built the first airplane in a bicycle shop. Engineers during our world wars created incredible machines from scrap metal. Zara's logical mind immediately began analyzing his proposal. "You want to construct a new propulsion system from emergency supplies? Marcus, the energy requirements alone would be massive, and the material science involved in creating a hyperdrive capable of carrying 5 beings across interstellar distances." "Who said anything about hyperdrive?" Marcus interrupted with a grin that was becoming increasingly confident. "Humans learn to think outside the box because we had to. When you can't go through an obstacle, you go around it. When you can't go over it, you go under it. And when you can't do what everyone else does, you do something no one else has ever thought of." Nyx spoke for the first time in hours, her voice like whispers in the darkness. "Explain." Marcus began sorting the supplies into different categories, his hands moving with the practiced efficiency of someone who had spent years solving problems under pressure. "Look at what we have here. Kira, your people's biotechnology might not work on this ship, but you understand how living systems process energy. Zara, your mathematical abilities aren't limited to hyperdrive calculations. Nix, your phase walking isn't just for moving through walls. And Lyra, your empathic connections work on more than just sentient beings. He paused, making sure he had their full attention. Humans have a saying, necessity is the mother of invention. Right now, we need to get home and we need to survive until we can make that happen. So we're going to do what humans do best. We're going to improvise, adapt, and overcome. The four alien women exchanged glances, each processing this information through the lens of their own species' approach to problem-solving. Marcus could see the exact moment when understanding began to dawn in each of their expressions. You have an idea, Lyra said, her empathic abilities picking up the surge of determination and excitement radiating from the human. Marcus nodded, his smile growing wider. I have several ideas, and with your abilities combined with human ingenuity, we're not just going to survive this. We're going to do something that's never been done before. We're going to show the galaxy what happens when you underestimate the power of working together. Outside their damaged pod, the asteroid continued its lonely orbit around a dying star. But inside, something new was beginning to take shape, something that would challenge everything the galaxy thought it knew about the limits of possibility. Marcus spent the next 3 hours sketching diagrams on every available surface inside the escape pod. His drawings covered the walls, the floor, and even the ceiling, creating a complex web of interconnected systems that made little sense to anyone but him. The four alien women watched with growing fascination as he muttered to himself, erased sections, and redrew them with increasing excitement. The fundamental problem, Marcus explained as he worked,
is that we're thinking like our individual species instead of thinking like a team.
Each of your peoples developed technology based on your natural abilities. Valonians built mathematical perfection into everything. Aquarians grew their technology like living organisms. Umbranians learned to bend space and shadow. Celestians harmonized energy patterns with life force. Zara studied the equations Marcus had scrawled along one wall. Her analytical mind could follow some of his reasoning, but his approach was unlike anything in Valonian science. Your calculations ignore several fundamental physical laws, she observed. No, Marcus replied without looking up from his work. I'm acknowledging that the laws we know might not be the only laws that exist. Humans discovered electricity by rubbing amber with fur. We learned about radiation by accident. Half of our greatest breakthroughs came from people who didn't know something was supposed to be impossible. Kira was examining another section of his diagrams, her bioengineering background helping her understand his organic approach to the problem. You want to create a hybrid system, she said slowly. Something that combines all our technologies into one unified device. Exactly. Marcus finally stopped drawing and turned to face them all. Look, every species in the galaxy has amazing abilities, but they've also developed limitations based on their strengths. Valonians are so logical that they can't conceive of solutions that don't follow perfect mathematical models. Aquarians are so connected to living systems that they struggle with purely mechanical devices. Umbranians are so focused on individual stealth and survival that they rarely consider collaborative approaches. And Celestians are so attuned to harmony that they avoid anything that might create conflict or discord. Lyra nodded thoughtfully. But humans have no such specialized evolution. You're generalists. We're jack of all trades, master of none, Marcus agreed, which means we can see connections that specialists miss. Kira, your bioneural interface technology could work if we had a living component to interface with. But what if we created that living component? The young Aquarian's eyes widened. You mean grow one? But that would take months, and we don't have the right nutrients or growth medium. Who says we need to grow it from scratch? Marcus grinned and pointed to Lyra. Celestian healing ability works by connecting with life force and directing it. What if instead of healing damaged tissue, you connected with existing life force and convinced it to transform into something new? Lyra looked puzzled. I don't understand. What existing life force? Marcus tapped himself on the chest. Me, us. We're all alive and we all have different types of life energy. Humans might not have specialized abilities like yours, but we're compatible with everyone. We've been proving that through diplomacy for decades. What if that compatibility goes deeper than just getting along? The implications of what he was suggesting began to sink in. Nick stepped forward from her shadowy corner, her red eyes glowing brighter with interest. You propose using your life force as a medium to connect our abilities. More than that, Marcus said, his excitement growing. Nix, your phase-walking ability lets you move through solid matter by briefly existing in the spaces between atoms. Zara's mathematical precision could calculate exactly which spaces to target. Kira's biointerfaces could control the process like a living system, and Lyra's empathic connection could keep us all synchronized. Zara was already running calculations in her head, but she shook her silver head in concern. The energy requirements would be enormous, and the risk to you would be significant. Human life force is not designed to channel multiple alien abilities simultaneously. That's where human stubbornness comes in handy, Marcus replied. We don't know it's impossible, so we're less likely to fail because we expect to fail. Besides, humans have always been good at surviving things that should kill us. Kira was studying the technical aspects of his proposal. If we could create a biomechanical hybrid using Celestian life force manipulation, we might be able to construct a navigation system that thinks like a living organism. It could adapt to problems in real time instead of following rigid programming. And if we could phase shift the entire pod using Umbranian techniques guided by Valonian mathematics, Nix added. Her tactical mind engaged. We might be able to move through space without traditional propulsion. Lyra was the most hesitant. Marcus, what you're suggesting would require me to establish deeper empathic connections than I've ever attempted. I would need to link not just with your emotions, but with your life force itself, and then extend that connection to include Kira's bioneural interface, Zara's mathematical consciousness, and Nix's shadow-walking abilities. The feedback could damage all of us. Marcus met her concerned gaze steadily. Lyra in human history. Every major breakthrough required someone to risk everything on an untested idea. The first person to perform surgery, the first pilot to fly an airplane, the first astronaut to leave Earth's atmosphere. They all knew they might die, but they also knew that playing it safe meant staying stuck forever. He looked around at all four women. I'm not asking you to risk yourselves for me. I'm asking you to help me risk myself for all of us, because that's what humans do. We volunteer for the dangerous job so others don't have to. The silence that followed was heavy with consideration. Each alien woman processed his proposal through her own cultural and personal framework. Finally, Zara spoke first. Your approach violates every principle of safe engineering, she said. The variables are too numerous, the unknowns too significant, and the probability of catastrophic failure too high. Marcus's face fell slightly, but Zara wasn't finished. However, she continued, your fundamental premise is sound. We have been thinking within the limitations of our individual technologies, instead of exploring the possibilities of true collaboration. From a mathematical standpoint, 5 integrated variables could produce exponentially more solutions than 5 separate equations. Kira nodded eagerly. And biosystems thrive on diversity. The most robust organisms are those that adapt and evolve by incorporating new traits. What Marcus is suggesting is technological evolution in real time. Nix's response was characteristically brief but decisive. The greatest victories come from strategies the enemy cannot predict because they are unprecedented. This qualifies. All eyes turned to Lyra, whose empathic abilities made her the most sensitive to the risks involved. She closed her golden eyes and extended her consciousness, feeling the life forces of everyone in the pod. Marcus's human energy was strange compared to her own people's, more chaotic but also more adaptable. The others each had their own distinct patterns, but there was something about Marcus's life force that seemed to harmonize naturally with all of them. I can sense the potential connections, she said finally. Your life force is unusual, Marcus. It's almost as if humans were designed to be bridges between different forms of consciousness. Marcus smiled. Maybe that's exactly what we are. Maybe that's why humans have been so good at diplomacy and making friends with species that everyone else said were incompatible. Lyra opened her eyes and looked at him with a mixture of admiration and worry. This will be the most dangerous thing I've ever attempted. But you're right. Sometimes the only way forward is through the unknown. Marcus clapped his hands together. Then let's get started. We have a galaxy to get home to, and I have a feeling we're going to teach them something about the power of working together. The preparation took 2 full days. Marcus insisted they couldn't rush the process, despite their limited food supplies and the growing concern that their emergency beacon might not reach anyone in time. He had each woman explain her abilities in detail, not just what they could do, but how they felt when they used their powers and what it cost them physically and mentally. Understanding the theory isn't enough, he explained as he took notes on every surface that wasn't already covered in diagrams. Humans learn by doing, but we also learn by understanding how things feel. Every human inventor will tell you that the moment of breakthrough doesn't come from calculations. It comes from intuition, from suddenly knowing that something will work. Zara found his approach frustrating and fascinating in equal measure. Valonian science is based on observable, measurable phenomena. Your method relies too heavily on subjective experience. And yet, Marcus pointed out, Valonian science led to perfect mathematical models that can't solve our current problem. Sometimes you need a little chaos to break through perfect order. He had them practice their abilities in new ways. Kira demonstrated her bio-neural interface by connecting with the pod's few remaining living systems, her blue scales glowing softly as she communed with the emergency life support plants. Marcus watched intently, asking her to describe not just what she was doing, but what it felt like to merge her consciousness with another living entity. "It's like becoming part of a larger organism," she explained, her voice distant and dreamy. "I can feel the plant's simple desires for light, water, nutrients. But I can also guide its growth, suggest new directions for its development." "Can you feel its life force directly?" Marcus asked. "The actual energy that keeps it alive?" Kira's brow furrowed in concentration. "Yes, but it's different from my own. Simpler, but also more focused. It knows exactly what it needs to survive." Marcus made more notes. "Lyra, when you heal someone, do you feel their life force the same way?" The Celestian healer shook her golden head. "Living beings are much more complex. There are layers of energy, patterns within patterns, physical health, emotional state, mental clarity, spiritual connection. They all influence each other. What about when you connect empathically? Can you sense the life force of non-Celestians?" Lyra looked around the pod at her companions. "I've been sensing all of you since we've been together. Each species has a distinct pattern. Zara's life force is structured and logical, like mathematical equations made of light. Kira's flows like water, constantly adapting and changing. Nyx's is shadowy and flickering, as if it exists partially in another dimension. "And mine?" Marcus asked quietly. Lyra was silent for a long moment, her eyes closed in concentration. "Yours is the strangest of all. It's not as focused as the others, but it's more flexible. It's like your life force naturally creates harmonics with whatever it encounters. When I'm near you, I can sense the others more clearly. You amplify connections." This information seemed to excite Marcus tremendously. He had Nyx demonstrate her phase-walking ability, but instead of simply moving through the pod's walls, he asked her to describe the experience of existing between dimensions. "It's not truly between dimensions," she corrected, her red eyes glowing in the dim light. "I shift my molecular structure so that I exist in the spaces between atoms. For a brief moment, I become more energy than matter. Can you take objects with you when you phase? Small items, yes, but only if I'm in direct contact with them when I shift. And the larger the object, the more energy it requires." Zara's demonstration was the most impressive visually. She could perform mathematical calculations that would require computers for other species, visualizing complex three-dimensional equations in her mind and manipulating them like physical objects. When Marcus asked her to calculate a hyperdrive trajectory for their pod, she had the answer in seconds. "But calculation is meaningless without the proper propulsion system," she pointed out. "I can tell you exactly where to go and how to get there, but I cannot create the energy required for the journey." Marcus was scribbling more notes, connecting ideas with lines and arrows that created an increasingly complex web across the pod's interior. "That's the beauty of this approach. Each of you has a piece of the puzzle, but alone, none of the pieces work. Together, they might create something completely new." On the second day, he had them begin practicing in pairs. Lyra and Kira worked on establishing an empathic connection that could bridge the gap between Celestian life force manipulation and Aquarian bio-neural interfacing. The first attempts were unsuccessful, but Marcus encouraged them to keep trying. "Human musicians call it harmony," he explained. "Two different notes that sound better together than either does alone. You're not trying to become the same. You're trying to complement each other." Zara and Nyx practiced coordinating mathematical precision with phase walking, with Zara calculating the exact molecular structures Nyx needed to navigate while phased. This proved extremely difficult as Nyx's ability was largely instinctual, while Zara's approach was completely analytical. "I don't think in mathematics when I phase," Nyx complained after several failed attempts. I think in shadows and spaces and the feeling of emptiness between solid things. Then don't think in mathematics, Marcus suggested. Zara, can you translate your calculations into something Nix's mind can process more naturally? The Valonian diplomat looked puzzled. Translate mathematics into shadows? Why not? Mathematics describes relationships between things, right? Shadow and light are also relationships. Empty space and solid matter are relationships. Maybe there's a way to express the same information using concepts Nix understands intuitively. This led to a breakthrough when Zara began describing her calculations as patterns of light and darkness, solid regions and empty spaces. Nix found she could follow these descriptions much more easily, and her phase walking became more precise and controlled. By the end of the second day, Marcus had filled every surface in the pod with diagrams, notes, and calculations. The 4 alien women looked exhausted but intrigued. They had pushed their abilities in ways they had never attempted before. And while they hadn't achieved full integration yet, each pair was beginning to understand how their powers could complement the others. Tomorrow we try it all together, Marcus announced as they prepared to rest. Lyra will establish empathic connections with everyone. Kira will use bioneural interfacing to link our life forces into a single network. Zara will calculate the precise energy patterns needed for controlled phase shifting. And Nix will shift the entire pod through space. And what will you do? Lyra asked. Marcus smiled tiredly. I'll be the bridge that makes it all possible. The connector that lets 4 incredible alien technologies work as one. And if I'm right about human life force being naturally compatible with others, then together we're going to accomplish something that's never been done before. Kira looked around at the diagrams covering every surface. And if you're wrong, then we'll improvise, Marcus replied with the confidence that had gotten him through every impossible situation in his life. That's what humans do best. The morning of their attempt began with careful preparation. Marcus had spent the night reviewing all his notes and diagrams, making final adjustments to the theoretical framework he had developed. The 4 alien women gathered around him in the center of the pod, each looking nervous but determined. Remember, Marcus said as they formed a circle, this isn't about forcing our abilities to work together. It's about creating harmony between different types of energy. Lyra, you'll be our conductor, keeping everyone synchronized. But don't try to control what happens. Guide it, and let it evolve naturally. Lyra nodded, her golden hair shimmering in the pod's emergency lighting. I've never attempted to link this many consciousnesses simultaneously, especially across different species. If something goes wrong, then we'll adapt, Marcus interrupted gently. That's what life does. It adapts, it survives, and it finds new ways to thrive. We're about to become something new together. Trust the process. He looked around at each of his companions. Kira, when you feel Lyra's empathic connection, don't resist it. Let your bioneural interface extend through that connection to all of us. We want to create a living network where everyone can share information and energy. The young Aquarian's gills fluttered nervously, but she nodded. I'll try to think of it as growing a new type of organism, one that includes all of us as essential components. Zara, your job is the most complex, Marcus continued. You need to calculate the energy patterns in real time as they develop. But remember what we learned about translating mathematics into shadow speak. Present your calculations in ways everyone can understand instinctively. The tall Valonian's silver skin rippled with concentration. I have prepared multiple calculation matrices based on our practice sessions. I will adapt them as needed based on the actual energy patterns we generate. Nix, you're our engine. When you feel everyone's energy synchronizing, that's when you begin the phase shift. But instead of shifting just yourself, you'll be shifting all of us together. Use the network to draw energy from everyone else to power the transition. The Umbranian assassin's red eyes glowed softly. I understand, but Marcus, if this fails, the feedback could kill you. Human nervous systems aren't designed to handle the kind of energy we'll be channeling. Marcus smiled with more confidence than he felt. Humans aren't designed for a lot of things we do anyway. We're not designed to fly, but we built airplanes. We're not designed to survive in space, but we became astronauts. We're not designed to channel alien abilities, but today we're going to do it anyway. He moved to the center of their circle and sat cross-legged on the floor. Here's what I think will happen. Lyra will establish empathic connections with each of us. When she connects with me, I'll use that link to help her connect more strongly with the rest of you. My life force will act as a kind of universal translator, making it easier for your different energies to communicate with each other. The women took their positions around him, each sitting at the point of an imaginary pentagon. Lyra closed her eyes and began to extend her consciousness, feeling for the familiar patterns of life force that surrounded her. "I can sense all of you," she said softly. "Marcus, your energy is already starting to resonate with mine. It's like your life force is naturally harmonizing with whatever it encounters." Marcus felt a warm, tingling sensation spreading through his body as Lyra's empathic abilities touched his mind. It was different from anything he had ever experienced, like suddenly being able to hear music that had always been playing but too quiet to notice. "That's the connection," he said, his voice slightly distant. "Now try extending that same connection to the others, but use my life force as a relay point." Lyra's consciousness reached out toward Kira, using Marcus as a bridge. The moment the connection formed, all three of them gasped. The Aquarian's bio-neural interface activated instinctively, and suddenly Marcus could feel Kira's thoughts and sensations as if they were his own. "The network is forming," Kira whispered, her blue scales glowing brighter. "I can feel both of you as clearly as I feel myself. Marcus, your nervous system is adapting in real time. It's like your brain is learning to process alien thought patterns." "Humans are good at learning new languages," Marcus managed to say, though the sensation of sharing consciousness with two alien minds was overwhelming. "This is just another kind of language." Lyra extended the network toward Zara, again using Marcus as a connecting point. The Valonian's mathematical consciousness was startling in its clarity and precision. Marcus suddenly found himself seeing the world in terms of equations and relationships, patterns of energy and matter that could be calculated and predicted. "Fascinating." Zara's voice came through both her mouth and the shared mental connection. "Marcus, your neural patterns are incredibly adaptable. You're not just translating between our different thought processes. You're creating hybrid patterns that combine aspects of all our consciousnesses." The final connection with Nyx was the most challenging. The Umbranian's mind existed partially in shadow space, flickering between dimensions. When Lyra's empathic bridge touched her consciousness through Marcus, the human felt as if part of his awareness was suddenly scattered across multiple realities. "Everyone stay calm," he said, though his voice was strained. "This is supposed to feel strange. We're becoming something that's never existed before." Through their shared consciousness, they could all feel Marcus's life force acting as a stabilizing influence, keeping their different mental patterns from interfering with each other. Instead of conflict, there was harmony. Instead of confusion, there was clarity. Each woman's abilities were enhanced by the connection to the others. Kira's bio-neural interface now extended to all of them, allowing her to monitor everyone's physical and mental state in real time. Zara's mathematical abilities were enhanced by access to multiple perspectives, letting her calculate solutions that incorporated variables she could never have considered alone. Lyra's empathic range expanded dramatically, allowing her to sense life forces far beyond her normal limits. And Nyx found that her phase-walking ability was amplified by the network, drawing energy from all of them instead of just herself. "It's working," Marcus said with wonder. "I can feel all of your abilities as if they were my own. But more than that, I can feel how they fit together. Zara, can you calculate the energy pattern we need to phase shift the entire pod?" Through their shared consciousness, Zara's mathematical mind began working at incredible speed, processing variables from all of their combined experiences and abilities. The calculations appeared in their shared mental space not as numbers, but as patterns of light and shadow that everyone could understand intuitively. "I have the solution," she announced, "but the energy requirements are enormous. We would need to channel power equivalent to a small star to shift an object this size across interstellar distances. Then it's a good thing we have 5 minds working together instead of 1, Marcus replied. "Nyx, are you ready to try something that's never been attempted before?" The Umbranian's response carried the excitement of a predator about to make a perfect strike. "I was born ready." Through their connection, they all felt Nyx beginning to shift not just herself, but the entire network of linked consciousnesses. The pod around them began to flicker and fade, existing simultaneously in normal space and shadow space. "Now," Marcus said, his voice echoing across dimensions, "let's show the galaxy what humans and aliens can accomplish together." The universe exploded into sensation around them. Marcus felt his consciousness expanding beyond anything he had thought possible, stretching across dimensions he couldn't name or understand. Through their shared network, he experienced reality as each of his companions did. Through Zara's mathematical awareness, space became a vast web of interconnected equations, each star a variable in calculations that spanned galaxies. The fabric of reality itself was revealed as patterns of energy and probability that could be predicted and manipulated with sufficient understanding. Through Kira's bio-neural interface, the cosmos became a living organism. Every planet, every asteroid, every particle of cosmic dust was part of an immense biological system that grew and evolved and adapted according to principles that transcended individual life forms. Through Lyra's empathic consciousness, the galaxy blazed with the life forces of countless sentient beings. Their hopes, fears, dreams, and desires created currents of emotional energy that flowed between star systems like invisible rivers of consciousness. Through Nyx's shadow-walking perception, reality became fluid. Solid matter was revealed as temporary arrangements of energy that could be shifted, rearranged, and moved through the spaces between existence. Distance became meaningless when you could step through the gaps in the fabric of space itself. And through his own human awareness, Marcus experienced it all as a grand adventure, a puzzle to be solved, a challenge to be overcome through determination and ingenuity. "The phase shift is working," Nyx announced, her voice coming from everywhere and nowhere at once. "But the energy requirements are increasing exponentially. I'm drawing power from all of you, but it may not be enough." Marcus felt his life force being channeled through the network, his human energy serving as a bridge that allowed the others to share their power more efficiently. But Nyx was right. The energy needed to shift an entire escape pod across interstellar distances was staggering. "Then we need to think like humans," he said, his consciousness focusing with laser intensity despite the overwhelming sensations. "When humans don't have enough power, we find more. When we can't solve a problem with brute force, we get clever." Through Zara's mathematical awareness, he began analyzing the problem from a different angle. "Zara, what if we don't try to shift the pod all at once? What if we shift it in stages, using gravitational fields as stepping stones?" The Valonian's consciousness was already racing through the implications. A series of micro-jumps using the gravity wells of stars and planets to amplify our energy output. Instead of trying to cross 3 light years in one jump, we make hundreds of smaller jumps that require less power each time. But that would require incredibly precise calculations, Kira pointed out through their shared awareness, and perfect timing. One mistake and we could materialize inside a star, or in the middle of empty space with no way to continue. "That's where our network gives us an advantage," Marcus replied. "Lyra can sense the life forces of inhabited systems, giving us targets to aim for. Kira can monitor our biological status throughout the journey, making sure the process doesn't kill us. Zara can calculate each jump in real time, adjusting for variables as they appear, and Nyx can execute the phase shifts with precision that would be impossible for any one individual." Through their shared consciousness, they all felt the elegance of the solution. It wasn't about raw power. It was about coordination, precision, and the kind of creative problem-solving that came naturally to humans, but was often overlooked by more specialized species. "I can feel inhabited systems," Lyra said, her empathic awareness ranging across the galaxy. "There's a mining colony about half a light year from here. Beyond that, a trade station. Then a major population center that must be a planetary capital. If we can jump from one to another—" "I'll map the gravitational fields," Zara interrupted, her mathematical mind already working on the complex calculations. "Each gravity well will help focus our energy and provide a launching point for the next jump. I can optimize our biological processes for multiple phase shifts," Kira added. "Instead of treating this as one massive energy expenditure, I'll help our bodies adapt to treat it as a series of manageable efforts." Nyx's excitement was palpable through their connection. A shadow walk across the galaxy. No one has ever attempted anything like this before. Marcus felt a surge of pride in his companions, and in the incredible achievement they were about to attempt together. Then let's make history. First jump on my mark. Everyone ready? Their shared consciousness focused like a laser beam. Zara's calculations provided the exact coordinates and energy patterns needed. Lyra's empathic awareness confirmed the presence of life at their destination. Kira's bio-neural interface optimized their physical processes for the energy transfer, and Nyx prepared to execute a phase shift unlike any she had ever attempted. 3. Marcus counted down, feeling his human determination flow through the network and amplify everyone's abilities. 2, 1, mark. Reality twisted around them. The escape pod flickered between dimensions, and suddenly they were elsewhere, floating in the space near a small mining operation. Through their shared awareness, they could all feel the success of the first jump, but also the toll it had taken on their energy reserves. Status report, Marcus called through their connection. Jump successful, Zara reported, her mathematical mind already calculating the next trajectory. Energy expenditure within acceptable parameters. All biological functions stable, Kira added. The network is distributing the stress evenly among all of us. We can continue. The next target is clear, Lyra confirmed. I can sense the life forces at the trade station. No immediate dangers. Ready for jump 2, Nyx announced, her shadow-walking abilities already preparing for the next phase shift. Marcus felt a surge of confidence that was amplified by their shared consciousness. Then let's keep going. We have a galaxy to cross, and I want to show everyone what 5 determined individuals can accomplish when they work together. The second jump was smoother than the first. Their network was learning, adapting, becoming more efficient with each transition. By the third jump, they were moving like a precision instrument, each member contributing exactly what was needed at exactly the right moment. As they leaped from star system to star system, Marcus began to understand that they were doing more than just getting home. They were proving something important about the nature of cooperation and the power of diversity. Every species in the galaxy had incredible abilities, but they had also developed limitations based on their specializations. Humans, with their lack of specialized evolution, could serve as bridges between different types of consciousness. They could translate between different ways of thinking, different approaches to problem solving, different understanding of reality itself. Jump 15 successful, Zara reported as they materialized near a busy spaceport. We're more than halfway home and our efficiency is still improving. Marcus smiled through their shared consciousness. Then let's finish this journey and show the galaxy what real cooperation looks like. By the 23rd jump, their network had evolved beyond anything Marcus had originally envisioned. What had started as 5 separate consciousnesses working together had become something entirely new. They were no longer just sharing abilities. They were creating new capabilities that none of them could have achieved individually. I can see patterns in spacetime itself, Zara announced through their connection as she calculated the next trajectory. The combination of mathematical analysis and empathic awareness is revealing structures in reality that Valonian science never detected. Kira's bio-neural interface had expanded to encompass not just their small group, but the life forces of entire star systems as they passed through. Every inhabited world we've visited has left traces in our network. I can feel the biodiversity of dozens of planets, the growth patterns of alien ecosystems I've never encountered before. Lyra's empathic abilities had grown beyond individual consciousness to perceive the collective emotional states of entire civilizations. The galaxy is more connected than we ever realized. Every sentient species contributes to a vast web of shared experience and emotion. We're not just traveling through space. We're moving through the dreams and hopes of countless beings. Nyx had discovered that shadow walking through their network allowed her to perceive dimensions beyond the normal 3 spatial dimensions and 1 temporal dimension. There are layers to reality that exist between the spaces we know, paths through existence that bypass the normal limitations of distance and time. But it was Marcus who had undergone the most dramatic transformation. His role as a bridge between alien consciousnesses had expanded, his own awareness in ways that challenged everything humans thought they knew about the limits of their species. I can feel the connections, he said as they prepared for another jump. Not just between us, but between everything. Every star, every planet, every living being is part of a vast network that spans the entire universe. Humans aren't just diplomats or explorers. We're natural connectors, designed to help different forms of consciousness communicate and work together. Their 24th jump brought them to the edge of their home system, and through their shared awareness they could all feel the familiar energy signatures of their respective homeworlds. But something else was waiting for them there. Ships. Lots of ships. Multiple vessel signatures detected, Zara reported, her enhanced mathematical abilities analyzing the sensor data that their improvised network was somehow receiving directly. Valonian science vessels, Aquarian bioships, Umbranian stealth craft, and Celestian healing frigates. It appears our respective governments have organized a search and rescue operation. They're not just searching, Lyra corrected, her empathic abilities reading the emotional states of the crews aboard the various ships. They're studying. Someone detected our phase-shifting jumps across the galaxy, and every major scientific organization wants to understand how we're doing what we're doing. Marcus felt a mixture of pride and concern through their connection. They're going to want to study us, aren't they? Turn us into research subjects and try to duplicate what we've accomplished. Nix's response carried the tactical awareness of a trained assassin. Our network has military applications that would revolutionize warfare. The ability to phase-shift large objects across interstellar distances, to share consciousness between multiple individuals, to enhance abilities through cooperative connection. Every government in the galaxy will want this technology. But they're thinking about it wrong, Kira said, her bioneural interface analyzing the situation from a living systems perspective. This isn't technology that can be mass-produced or militarized. It's an evolution in cooperation itself. It requires trust, harmony, and the willingness to merge consciousness with others. Those aren't qualities that can be forced or fabricated. Marcus felt his human perspective crystallizing into a plan. Then we show them the right way to think about it. Not as a weapon or a tool to be exploited, but as the next step in interspecies cooperation. A proof of concept that different forms of consciousness can work together to achieve things none of them could accomplish alone. Through their shared awareness, they all felt the rightness of his approach. What they had discovered was too important to be hidden or hoarded by any one government. But it was also too dangerous to be used without proper understanding and respect. Final jump, Marcus announced as they prepared to materialize in normal space near the search fleet. But this time we do it with style. Let's show them exactly what 5 individuals can accomplish when they refuse to accept the word impossible. Their last phase shift was the most spectacular yet. Instead of appearing quietly in empty space, they materialized directly in the center of the search fleet, their escape pod glowing with energies that made every sensor on every ship register readings that their operators had never seen before. The response was immediate. Communication channels flooded with requests for information, demands for explanations, and orders to surrender for debriefing. But Marcus and his companions ignored them all. Instead, they opened a single communication channel that broadcast simultaneously to every ship in the fleet. "This is Marcus Chen of the diplomatic vessel Harmony's Edge," Marcus announced, his voice carrying the authority of someone who had just accomplished the impossible. "Along with my companions Zara of Valon, Kira of Aquaria, Nix of Umbrania, and Lyra of Celestia, we have successfully demonstrated something that will change the galaxy forever." The communication channel filled with overlapping voices demanding details, but Marcus continued calmly. "What we have discovered is not a new weapon or a new technology to be exploited. We have discovered the next step in evolution itself. The ability for different forms of consciousness to merge temporarily while maintaining their individual identities, creating hybrid capabilities that exceed the sum of their parts." Through their network, his 4 companions provided additional information, their voices joining his in perfect harmony. "Mathematical precision enhanced by empathic intuition," Zara explained. "Biological adaptation guided by shadow space navigation," Kira added. "Dimensional phase shifting powered by collective consciousness," Nix contributed. "Life force manipulation amplified by cooperative networking," Lyra concluded. "And human adaptability serving as the bridge that makes it all possible," Marcus finished. "This is not something that can be taken or stolen or forced. It can only be freely given and freely received. It requires trust, respect, and the willingness to see other forms of consciousness as partners rather than resources to be exploited." The silence that followed was profound. Every ship in the fleet was processing the implications of what they had just witnessed and heard. Finally, one voice broke through the communication channel. Marcus Chen, this is Admiral Corvex of the Galactic Council. On behalf of all member species, I formally request that you and your companions share your knowledge with our combined scientific committees. Marcus smiled through their shared consciousness. Admiral, we would be happy to share our knowledge, but not as test subjects or research materials, as teachers and partners in the next phase of galactic evolution. What we've learned can't be studied in a laboratory. It can only be experienced through cooperation, understanding, and the courage to reach beyond the limitations of individual species. The response that came back carried notes of hope, excitement, and just a touch of fear. Very well, Mr. Chen. Welcome home. The galaxy is ready to learn. 6 months later, Marcus stood on the observation deck of the newly constructed Harmony Station, watching as the first mixed-species crews prepared for their maiden voyages, using the consciousness-linking techniques that had been developed from his team's original breakthrough. The station itself was a marvel of cooperative engineering, designed and built by representatives from dozens of different species working together in ways that would have been impossible before their discovery. Through the large viewport, he could see Valonian mathematical accuracy, combined with Aquarian bioneural systems, creating ships that could adapt their navigation in real time. Umbranian phase-shifting technology had been integrated with Celestian life force manipulation to create propulsion systems that moved through space by existing temporarily between dimensions. And at the heart of every system were human-designed interface networks that allowed different types of consciousness to work together harmoniously. The third graduation ceremony is scheduled for next week, Zara reported as she approached, her silver skin gleaming under the station's artificial lighting. In the months since their return, she had become the director of theoretical integration, responsible for developing the mathematical frameworks that made multi-species consciousness linking possible. We now have over 200 certified integration specialists from 15 different species. Kira emerged from a nearby bioneural interface pod, her blue scales glowing with the satisfaction of a successful connection test. As director of biological systems, she had overseen the development of living interfaces that could adapt to the unique neural patterns of any species. The new biopods are exceeding all performance expectations. We've successfully linked consciousness networks of up to 12 individuals from 8 different species simultaneously. Nyx materialized from the shadows near the wall, her red eyes gleaming with pride. Her role as director of dimensional navigation had led to breakthroughs in space travel that were revolutionizing galactic civilization. The Deep Space Exploration Fleet reports successful consciousness-linked jumps to previously unreachable star systems. We've made contact with 3 new species in the Outer Rim territories, and all of them are interested in learning integration techniques. Lyra approached last, her golden hair flowing as she moved with the serene grace that had made her legendary among the station's multi-species population. As Director of Consciousness Harmony, she had developed the emotional and mental preparation techniques that made safe integration possible. The psychological profiles are remarkable, Marcus. Species that have been isolated for millennia are opening their minds to cooperation they never thought possible. We're not just creating new technologies, we're facilitating the next stage of galactic evolution. Marcus nodded, feeling the familiar sense of pride and wonder that had sustained him through the challenges of the past months. The transition hadn't been easy. There had been political resistance from species that preferred isolation, scientific skepticism from researchers who couldn't accept that consciousness could be shared safely, and military concerns from governments worried about the implications of the new technologies. But gradually, the results had spoken for themselves. Problems that had seemed impossible to solve were resolved when different types of consciousness worked together. Scientific breakthroughs that had eluded single-species research teams were achieved by integrated networks. Diplomatic conflicts that had persisted for centuries were resolved when the participants could literally share each other's perspectives. The Galactic Council has officially approved the expansion proposal. Zara continued. 5 more integration stations will be constructed over the next 2 years, each designed to serve a different sector of the galaxy. And the Educational Committee has approved the mandatory integration courses for all diplomatic and scientific personnel. Marcus smiled as he watched a mixed-species crew successfully execute a consciousness-linked departure from the station, their ship phase-shifting smoothly into dimensional space with precision. that would have been impossible using any single species technology alone. "You know what the best part is?" he said to his 4 companions. "This is just the beginning. Every time different species learn to work together, they discover new possibilities none of them had imagined. We're not just improving existing technologies, we're creating entirely new ways of understanding reality itself." Kira's bio-neural interface chimed softly, indicating an incoming message. "Speaking of new possibilities, we have a priority communication from the Deep Exploration Fleet. They've encountered something in the galactic rim that they think requires our personal attention." The message, when it appeared on the station's main display, showed the image of a massive structure floating in the void between galaxies. It was clearly artificial, but unlike anything in any known species architectural database, the consciousness-linked exploration team that had discovered it reported that their enhanced perception abilities revealed patterns of energy and organization that suggested a civilization far more advanced than anything in the current galaxy. "Preliminary analysis suggests this structure has been dormant for millions of years," the fleet commander reported, through the communication link. "But our consciousness network detected traces of dormant awareness within it. Whatever built this may not be entirely gone, and our standard protocols are insufficient for making contact safely." Marcus felt the familiar thrill of a new challenge, a new impossible problem to solve through human ingenuity and alien cooperation. He looked at his 4 companions, seeing in their expressions the same excitement and determination that had sustained them through their original crisis. "It looks like the galaxy has another job for us," he said with a grin. "Something that requires exactly the kind of unprecedented cooperation that we've learned to achieve." Zara was already running preliminary calculations in her head. "The energy patterns in that structure suggest technologies that operate on principles we haven't discovered yet. Standard mathematical models may be insufficient." Kira's bio-neural interface was analyzing the biological implications. "If there are dormant life forms inside that structure, making contact could require integration techniques we haven't developed yet. We might need to expand our consciousness network beyond anything we've attempted before." Nix's tactical mind was assessing the challenges. The distance alone would require phase-shifting capabilities at the very edge of our current abilities. And if the builders of that structure are still present in some form, we have no idea what their intentions might be. Lyra's empathic abilities were already reaching out, trying to sense the emotional resonances from the distant structure. There's something there. Not active consciousness, but the echo of awareness. As if whatever built that place left part of themselves behind, waiting for someone capable of understanding. Marcus clapped his hands together, the gesture that had become his trademark signal for tackling impossible problems. "Then it sounds like they're waiting for us. A team that can bridge different types of consciousness, solve problems that have never been solved before, and refuse to accept that anything is truly impossible." He looked out the viewport at the ships departing for various missions throughout the galaxy. Each crew trained in the consciousness integration techniques that had started with 5 desperate individuals in a damaged escape pod. "Besides, we've already proved that humans and aliens can accomplish incredible things when they work together. Now let's see what we can accomplish when we work together with whatever's out there in the dark between galaxies." As they began planning their next impossible mission, Marcus reflected on how much had changed since that desperate day when they were stranded with no apparent hope of rescue. They had not only survived, they had discovered something that was transforming galactic civilization itself. Humans, it turned out, were indeed special in the galaxy. Not because they were stronger or smarter or more advanced than other species, but because they were natural bridges, connectors who could help different forms of consciousness work together in ways that benefited everyone. And as they prepared to venture beyond the galaxy itself, Marcus knew that their greatest adventures were still ahead of them. Because when humans and aliens worked together, when different ways of thinking combined into something greater than the sum of their parts, there truly was no such thing as impossible. The universe was vast, full of wonders and challenges that no single species could handle alone. But together, working as partners and friends, they could face anything the cosmos had to offer. And Marcus Chen, bridge builder and problem solver, couldn't wait to see what they would discover next.